Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Author and Greensboro native Angela Davis-Gardner taught at a university in Tokyo, Japan, and created strong ties in the country. She recently sat down with North Carolina Bookwatch's D.G. Martin to discuss the aftermath of this spring's earthquake and subsequent tsunami in Japan.
Raleigh author Angela Davis-Gardner her latest book is called Butterfly's Child, and it's about the Japanese culture or set in Japan and in America. And Angela Davis-Gardner, you are familiar with both Japanese culture from your experience there, from the 2 books that you've written on Japanese themes, and now you must be worried and in touch with people in Japan about the aftermath of the tsunami and earthquake and the nuclear catastrophe. What's happening over there?
Well, it's very complicated and difficult, of course, as we all know. I receive a lot of letters from my friends there. One of my friends is a survivor of Hiroshima, and she certainly did not expect to go through again a nuclear disaster. She's an elderly woman now, and it's just very hard for her. I mean, the cruel irony of this is just overwhelming. But she'd written a book about Hiroshima, and now she's written at the end of her memoir about this time in Japan. She's living in Tokyo, the radiation in the water, and so on. And the problems have not been resolved. But I've asked my friends, how is it that the Japanese are so stoic? And I've gotten several different answers.
And what are the answers that I think that a lot of us wonder, and are with admiration, that this terrible tragedy, it's not like it's handled in a business-like manner, but that it is handled in an orderly manner.
Right.
And underneath, how are the Japanese people? Are they that orderly underneath as well?
Yes, and I think it goes back to the way of the samurai. That's how it's explained to me, which is about endurance and perseverance, and that's part of the Japanese character. And so is community. And one of my former students, who's now an expert in Japan-American relations, has explained it to me that way, that she says, when we saw looting after Katrina, we would never have that in Japan because there's more of a sense of community. People feel responsible for each other. And that's why there's heroism going in the men who went into the plant and in a very dangerous situation. And she has a student who's from that area who could go anywhere after graduation, but she's decided to go back home to work and help people there. Another friend wrote to say, that we all feel like one country, and what happens to one person, everyone sympathizes with. And she said, people who've lost their office feel sympathy for the people who've lost their home. People who've lost their homes feel deep sympathy for the people who've lost their families. And people who've lost their families feel sympathy for those whose families can't be found, their bodies are lost. And I've heard a good bit about that I don't think we hear in this country now, about all the people who are missing. I mean, most people have not been recovered. They're at sea. Their bodies were washed out to sea, and the debris is all at sea.
Now, is that, in some cultures, the inability to find the body of a loved one would be very disruptive?
Yes.
Is that in Japanese culture as well?
Yes,
how do they deal with?
disturbing.
How do you find them dealing with that?
I'm not sure. I mean, they just say it's heartbreaking for their families not to be able to find them and give them a ceremonial burial.
Japan has a large population, concentrated population, and everybody's affected to an extent.
Right.
But the very toughest part is in a defined geographic area. Does the rest of the country feel just as disrupted as the people who live in that area?
Well, my friends live in Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagasaki, and they all write in the same manner about the disaster that has befallen the whole country.
Does it disrupt the lives of those in Tokyo and further south in Japan, other than just this feeling of empathy for their compatriots to the north?
Well, in Tokyo, I think there was at first some concern about the drinking water, and there was nothing in the stores, and for a long time there was a disruption of electricity. That's all passed. They're all concerned, though, about what's going to happen with the nuclear radiation problem.
Ironic that the Japanese, after the end of World War II, even ever chose to rely on nuclear energy.
Right, it is.
And will they ever be able to deal with the idea of becoming dependent or continuing to be dependent on nuclear energy?
Yes, I don't know. It's very strange and horrible that this befell them, cruel irony. And I would think they would not want to rely on nuclear energy. I mean, Germany and Switzerland have decided not to cut back on nuclear plants after this.
Any plans to go back anytime soon to visit your friends?
Yes, I hope to go back in a couple of years.
Well.
Yeah, and I have some Japanese friends coming in a few weeks, and they're glad to get away from Japan right now.
Great. Well, Angela Davis-Gardner, thank you for bringing us up to date on Japan. You're the author of Butterfly's Child. It's having a great success.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful to you for sharing that report from your Japanese friends.
Thank you.
Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.